Hi everyone, welcome dear participants and our very esteemed speaker today. Uh, this day is special for me to moderate because my colleague, but at the same time a very good friend, is speaking today about AI. And we just began the discussion in New York in the last March about these issues, but today it will be very interesting. But for those of you who are not familiar with me and with KADEM and why we are doing this seminar, maybe I can just explain the process, and then we can jump into the very nice biography of Suma, and then the speech itself. I am one of the executive board member of KADEM, but at the same time, one of the academic advisor in certain projects and different internationalization kind of events. And this summit is the very important events of one of the very important events of KADEM, International Women and Justice Summit preparations. Actually, the seminar we have been doing, and this is the fourth of it, have been done so far because of a preparation for AI kind of baggage, I would say, because there are so many things happening in the last decade, but mostly in the last 5 years, I guess. Everybody is speaking about AI and the other, let's say, topics about it, but we are not very certain that which details has to be known or in which way. That's why before the summit, the traditional summit KADEM has, we want to do these preparations with so many experts. As you know, we are doing the summits with different kind of, let's say, themes like justice, peace processes, family empowerment, cultural codes, and staying human digital age. And this year it will be about AI and women. And we are trying to get into very complex and layered kind of discussions. And as you also know that the webinars so far have been talking about the capacity of intelligence and of AI by Enistoko. He is also one of my colleagues from Ibn Haldun University. And also we discussed the ethics and AI. And also we discussed the governance of AI by Merve Ayyüce Kızrak. And the last one was very, very important. And it is much more closer to my area that in terms of philosophical and sociological concerns, the ethics and AI by Professor Jocelyn McClure. And today, actually, we have a much more, let's say, action based and practice based level, I guess, that because as I said, we were discussing, I was stuck into the ethic part of it, and as a sociologist and anthropologist were very concerned about it, but when we were discussing with Suma this in last let's say March, she was saying that just relax and just try to understand that what it can give you, and in a basic way. Today she will be talking about this in a very nice title, and let's say pointing it out that demystifying AI and what are the latest innovations. Suma is actually, as I said, my colleague in terms of our advocacy practices in W20 and women rights. Uh, but at the same time, my dearest friend, but at the same time, a very, very big kind of, let's say, knowledge, experience based specialist in AI. Just a bit, let's say, biography kind of think that she's coming from an engineering background, actually, electronic and instrumentation engineering. And she has the computer science master degree, but she's not stopping. I know it. And she's having the public policy and international economics master degree from Columbia University as well. And recently, she is working as a partner and as a technology advisor, practice leader at PKF O'Connor Davis Advisory. And they're mostly, yeah, in this area, she has mostly like more than 25 years experience with an expertise in driving high-level technology strategy for organizations of all kinds, including startup initiatives. And also she is expert on like budgeting, product management, software development, and revenue maximization. But where we met is also showing that she is always engaged with NGOs and different, let's say, marginalized groups kind of empowerment. And that's why she was actually one of the knowledge partners last year in Women 20 kind of events and all this task force and communique kind of creation in terms of the digital transformation task force discussion. But she is also actively as an executive board member in Ripaladru Foundation, which is an NGO based on like different tribal communities in India and trying to empower different groups in different educational or technological, let's say, levels. And also, she is a president board of directors, which is I am very much interested also, Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences, and she is also contributing so much with this, let's say, with this NGO as well in terms of education, again in rural communities in India. That's why it will be my big pleasure and honor to introduce Sumo and just give the floor to her. Yes, it's your turn, Suma.
I have to live up to all the praise that Nursem just showered on me. I just can't thank you enough for giving me the opportunity, Nursem, and such a pleasure to be any part of where I feel like we can contribute to the understanding, a deeper level of understanding in terms of where artificial intelligence is and how it's growing. And the need to adopt is the phrase I'd go with awareness and understanding of how it works. Then the fear goes away. Fear, I believe, and the lack of it comes from lack of understanding to many times, or there's a lot of conversations, of course, because of the speed of innovation. So it's the rate of rapid innovation, the speed has also led to people not being able to keep up, including technologists like myself and other people, to what's happening, which is leading to a lot of the fear because there's a lot of talk. So my goal, I thought, was to really give the basics of what artificial intelligence really is. There's a lot of white paper out there. There's a lot of internet buzz out there to really get into a little bit of the technical know-how on how things work and kind of take you through the innovations. I'm happy to run a few prompts. I'm happy to show you a few tools to actually make you realize the speed and how it can improve your day-to-day and cut your time in manual tasks where you have the time to do other things. So I thought I'd give you a few examples at the very end, but kind of take you through the technical know-how on what this is and how this really works, because I do really believe once you really understand, the fear will go away and you would want to adopt it safely. So that's really where I thought I should take this. I'm happy to take questions at the end. Nursem, anything for me?
Yeah. Okay. I think I have to inform the audience a bit as well that the let's say the presentation overall is 40 minutes, but then we will have a Q&A session. They can write their questions during the presentation and after in a Q&A section that we have, and then I will pick up most of them and just try to ask as far as I can.
Sure,
you, okay?
Sounds good. So I think it's 1:15. Do I have half an hour or 40 minutes? Because I know we started a few minutes.
Okay, you can have 40 minutes. Okay,
just I'll try to keep it
no,
to the
please,
time.
go ahead. Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Okay. So I think I'll need to share the screen. I'll share my screen. Okay. Can everybody see the screen? Yes? Okay. So the introduction to the topic is really what is AI and what are the different components of AI. Most of you already know what it is. I won't go too much into the detail of it.
Maybe Suma, you can make it full screen. Just we can.
Yeah. Okay. Is that good? Okay. Can everybody see it? I hope so, right, Nursem?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Okay. So it comprises of multiple subsets. Artificial intelligence comprises of 4 different main subsets, which you all have, I'm sure, already have heard. So this is really one of the main components is machine learning. Going deeper on how machine learning works is deep learning. How deep learning works is with neural networks. And with all of this, within all of this, and again, there's generative AI. So if you really put these into perspective, machine learning is basically giving the machine a capability to learn from patterns in data. I'm sure you heard this in the past. Deep learning is going through different ways of basically what happens is your brain has what we call a neural network. A brain works with what we call a neural network. So I'll just kind of go through what neural network is. A neural network is like a network of nodes that connects to each other, where information gets passed from one to another. And the way this works is very simple. Basically, when you see, for example, our sensory organs see something, we're perceiving an image of, say, a television. That is a layer of nodes where the data is, you receive it as an input. It's raw data. Basically, when you see the input, how is your brain responding and being able to understand that it's a television or it's a table? It processes this image and then it responds to the next layer. It's like layers of nodes. And as it goes through different layers of nodes, like, oh, is this TV black or is it silver color? Or is it big or small? There's a lot of this information that actually our brain processes and goes through these various nodes. And then it comes out with the final output layer. So, and based on the final output layer, our brain we are able to interpret, okay, this is a large TV, which is black in color, and it's sitting in this room, and it's not a table. And it has this type of screen and all the various parameters of responding to this image happens in what we call a neural network. So what did we do as a part of deep learning? We took how the brain works as a part of the neural network, and we recreated it in what we call deep learning. So as a part of a deep learning technique that is within the concept of artificial intelligence, that is where the human brain and how the learning and perceptions is captured is within this deep learning, and which is where the neural networks play a very critical role, which is a part of deep learning. So I kind of wanted to tell you a little bit of what deep learning is and how this is a very critical component of almost every aspect of artificial intelligence. So I wanted to take you through that slide first before I kind of hit to what deep learning really is. So there are multiple techniques of deep learning, and there are different multiple features that understand abstraction, and progressively they understand very complex data. I don't want to kind of go through what high dimensional data is, but basically, when your eye is looking at something, is perceiving something, right? How does a machine perceive something? Normally, initially, long time ago, it perceives through ones and zeros, binary form. But we, as technologists, have taught the machine how to take an image like a video stream or an audio stream and break it down into ones and numbers in such a way that it's able to interpret video streams and audio streams very quickly, just like how it used to interpret ones and zeros. When that breakthrough happened in the last 15 years, where we taught the machine how to interpret audio and video and convert it into binary form. That is what propels the innovation and this movement of AI forward. It was not that artificial intelligence wasn't existing. It was existing. They've been trying to get the machine to learn and behave like human beings and respond to problems, as you know, for a long time through programming languages. The concept of feeding in large amounts of data, giving it the neural network, which is a part of the deep learning algorithm, and giving it the power to interpret it by itself was that breakthrough happened when we cracked that problem and challenge of converting, taking multiple streams of input like video and audio and converting it to a machine understanding language, which is generally new numbers, zeros and ones. So these are the various components. When you hear about what deep learning is, what neural network is, how it really works, I think it's important for you to understand, like for all of us to understand what this is, and you're aware. So again, like, just to I kind of put some deep learning examples, like, object detection. If you have a camera, you on the screen, now there is artificial intelligence tools, I'm sure you heard, that are being used for security, for example. They're able to capture the objects of everything on the street and feed it back into security systems, which are able to identify, for example, a face recognition, right? How is it able to identify? It's able to take the data, match it back to the data of that's already stored. So this is a part of a deep learning algorithm. So I just kind of wanted to give you a real example of what how these algorithms are actually implemented. I kind of went through how do these neural networks really work. Again, I think I wanted to kind of say that there's something called the nodes are called neurons. The various layers within the deep learning layers that I told you are called the layers. Then there's something called weight. So basically, say there's Nursem standing in one corner, there's Suma standing in another corner, and the algorithm is trying to say, I want to figure out who's from India among these women. It's able to go in and look at my features, maybe potentially facial features. It's able to my skin color, or how generally someone like Turkey could potentially look like based on the millions of terabytes of data that it already has. And it's able to weigh it. Oh, this is the highest probability that this is Suma is because she has tanner skin and darker hair. And, she's kind of looks more like these 1,000 Indian women data that I'm seeing. So it's able to put weight on it and it's able to respond to it. So that is how the neural network works. And also, again, the neurons activate basically because these are multiple neurons. It takes the input and it gets activated. Oh, this is the highest weight. This should be the highest probability. So I'll respond to it in this way. So it responds to it. So that's really how it takes these large amounts of data, and this is how it really works. This is how a neural network really works. So I went through this slide. So I wanted to kind of tell you, all of you have heard about ChatGPT, Claude, Anthropic's Claude, Google's DeepMind. These are all some of the very critical large language models that are out in the market and people are using it. I think it's important. I don't know if you've already know, but I just thought I'll touch upon how a large language model really works. So how does it really work? So basically, similar to what I just said, it takes the data. For example, I want to say Nursem is teaching in a classroom versus Nursem is sitting on the floor. So if you type into ChatGPT, Nursem is teaching dash, 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 it is going to fill Nursem is teaching in a classroom, because it is going to go back and it's going to understand Nursem's profile. The model understands that she's a teacher in a university teaching anthropology for her students. So it goes back, looks at the probability of what the next letter or word is going to be, and it goes in loops like that, and it fills the next line and the next word and the next word. That's how a large language model really works. So the minute you give the input, it takes the input, it goes back into the data, it looks at the probability of what the output could potentially be and comes back and responds to and gives the output. So that's really how it's a very simple concept if you really understand it. That's all a large language model really is, in a very simplistic way. So again, there are techniques within, again, like I said, it recognizes patterns, right? It's all about pattern recognition. How does it go recognize these patterns? That is a part of how the neural network, as a part of deep network, is where I'm sure all of you have heard model training. How do you train this model to recognize these patterns? What kind of data are you giving it? Based on the data that it is fed and how the model is trained, it is going to come back and give you the response. What does training of models really mean? It really very simply means that you are actually teaching the machine how to think. And how are you teaching the machine how to think? Through these algorithms. Some of the latest innovations that are happening within a part of model training is what we call now reinforcement training. There's something called reinforcement learning. And also adaptive learning is how you continuously, the model actually learns to learn. So what that means is you start to give, say, for example, develop an algorithm that translates English into any language, right? Into Spanish, into French, into Hindi. Some of the examples that have come out recently with regards to data and biases, for example, is it doesn't identify the gender differences in different languages because this is or, for example, if I say Nursem is a teacher, it doesn't give, for example, a female gender associate. Say there's a female gender associated with the teacher in a certain language and not in other languages. Depending on the majority of the examples that it looks at, it sees that there is no feminine gender associated with the word teacher. So it is not going to be able to translate in the right way if it's learning to, trying to learn a new language by itself. Recently, Google CEO came up with a statement. The Google actually came up with a statement that they fed the transformer 100 languages. And on the 101st language, it learned by itself. The machine learned by itself. It didn't have to be taught how to learn. How did that work? It learned by adaptive learning and reinforcement learning. It continuously saw through the patterns of all this data of these 100 languages and how they work and how the words are put together. And it looks through the patterns and then it learned the 101st language by itself. It is not a rocket science. If you really understand how the machine is learning, it's not. So if somebody's telling you, oh, the machine learned by itself, do not be scared or surprised. You know, you should, when you learn how a neural network can adopt and learn, it won't be a fear factor for you on how artificial intelligence works, actually, if you really think about it. So that's why, again, another reason I believe that it is important to understand how the technology itself works. That way there's no fear. There's no fear. And you can respond to it. Of course it can learn because it's recognizing patterns. So I kind of wanted to put this particular example here because it's a very common example. And you should also how it recognizes patterns and the various techniques on how it recognizes complex patterns and the relationships between input and output. So I added a little more of information on the predictability and the distribution of how it understands the weights of predictability. This, I won't really go through this because I kind of explained it, but this is the slide you can have for your records. I'm happy to distribute this PowerPoint to everyone if anybody is interested. So you can just read through it. There's also something called embeddings. I'm sure everybody heard of embeddings and how data is stored within the data structures of AI. How each word, for example, is represented as a vector. It's within, think of an array. It's represented as a space, as literally a point in space. Think about it. And basically how it's stored, where is the position, how it looks, like the various parameters associated with that vector is representative of its meaning. So that's how data is really stored as embeddings within the AI data structures. Basically, there are something called contextual embedding. So basically, if a word is used in the context of how I'm explaining artificial intelligence, versus the same word could potentially be used in a completely different context of, say, a policy, it could be. But it takes that word, but also takes all the parameters and stores that data. And that is what is called a vector, because it is not just the word by itself, if you understand. It's able to undertake it as a with the juxtapositioning or store it as almost like how to say, like a mood. Like, Suma is sitting here, but Suma has a mood. So this particular way of storing data is not just storing Suma's name, but it's able to say that Suma is a woman, Suma is 50 years old, Suma is a teacher, or Suma is a technologist. It's able to store it with all, and Suma is a runner, Suma is this, Suma is that. It's going to take all the context around Suma and store it. And so when the LLM is calling this information, it's able to relay back to how this information is stored and then pull it accordingly. That is why it's called a contextual embedding. So now if you take it one step further, how are LLMs working? They're working with images. They're working with audio. They're working with video. They're able to generate video. They're able to do, based on, you tell it something, you say, make Suma sit on the top of the Empire State Building in New York that looks like 1935. It'll do it. It'll just take it as a prompt and it'll do it. How is it able to do it? So this is where the what we call multimodal. What is multimodal? It's able to take video, it's able to take audio, it's able to take text, and it's able to convert one form to another very easily, interchangeably. How is it able to do that? All of this data is stored within the data structures as multimodal embeddings. It's able to contextualize it and store it, allowing for this cross-modal understanding. So that's really how the data structures are stored within. It's not just like simple database structures that we use. It's a lot more complex. I kind of put some examples on deep learning within as a part of how it's being used as a part of NLP, which is natural language processing. How it's being used to understand sentiments and emotional tone. It's able to summarize long documents, making it simpler. It's able to easily translate one language to another, removing language barriers. So this is all a part of, again, deep learning algorithms that is a part of natural language processing that all kind of works with what I just explained, neural networks, how data is stored, how data is pulled, and how the algorithms are written and kept. How we access these. I just want to touch upon a little bit on the advancements. What on AI? So AI, for example, even a year ago, if somebody had to create do an implementation, AI implementation, people thought it was a big effort, like it was something very big. It's actually not anymore. AI has been democratized to the point where you do not have to build an LLM. Don't have to write an open AI like a ChatGPT. The large tech companies have been working with all of us, and they've been giving us APIs, where we can plug in our tools to work with the already developed large language models like ChatGPT and OpenAI. And they've also understood that data is an issue, data privacy is an issue, because whatever you put into the public domain, large language model could potentially be trained, and your client data could be exposed to a public domain, and people are worried about it. So they came up with a new concept called enterprise focused chat GPT, for example, enterprise. What does that mean? It shuts down within your enterprise. You can take a license of ChatGPT, for example, and use it just for your enterprise, where you're using the power of that LLM and the API, using APIs, connecting to these LLMs, but you're not taking this data and putting it out in the public. It's not going into the public domain. It's getting trained within the private enterprise. So, and you work with OpenAI, they have customer service, you work with them on a license, they'll give you a key, and then you're good to go, you're set. Then you put your own private data, your own company's data, your own client's data. It's not going anywhere. It's staying within the realm. It's like working with a private cloud, like any SaaS-based system. It's working. So enterprise GPT this has become very democratized. Artificial intelligence has been democratized. So there are 2 or 3 different important things here. There's something called agents. I'm sure you've heard of AI agents. I'm sure you heard of autonomous AI, and I'm sure you've heard of GPTs. If you go into ChatGPT, if you have an account into GPT, you can build your own GPT in minutes. Like, it's that simple. Agentive AIs are very simple. I want to go to Turkey in November, right, for the summit, and I want cheap tickets to get there. And I want to leave New York on 5 a.m. return at whatever. I give it the parameters I need. I'll give it the price parameters I need. I only want to pay $200, no more. It's going to go and I can leave it. It's like my own private travel agent. It'll go keep looking and browsing the web all day long, and it'll come back when it finds it for me. I've built an agent for myself that just does ticket searches. You can build any agent you want. You want to go, I want to see anytime there's an NBC news clip that puts something on women and justice and some atrocity that happened in the Middle East. I want to see it. Get it for me. It'll do it. So agents are extremely easy to build, and you can do it through like 10 prompts, for example, on using a GPT, and let them loose, and it'll do a lot of work for you. So that's really what agents are, and they can do really a lot of wonderful things, like manipulating spreadsheets, for example, or anything you want. Autonomous AI on the others. So basically, agentive AI is where you're giving it a specific task, right? And you're responding to it, right? But it also has the intelligence, right? To go after, say, the right travel website, which gives the cheapest tickets. It looks at the trends. Oh, in the evening, the market prices are going down. If I go into Asia coming back, the ticket prices might be cheaper. So it does its own intelligence, has its own intelligence, but it is working with your task. It's telling you, it's responding to what you ask it to do. On the other side, autonomous artificial intelligence algorithm, a good example for you to understand is a self-driving car. You don't have to do anything. You just have to say where you want it to go. And it'll figure out the route. It'll figure out everything you need. It'll find the route. And if there's something closed, it'll know what to do. If there is an accident, it'll know what to do. It's responding like a human being, and maybe actually a lot faster. So that's autonomous AI. It has a brain to act completely on its own and make decisions on its own. That's autonomous AI, and GPTs are what I just said. Like, how do you really create these little agents using GPTs? They're all over. You can create your own. So I want you to know that these are various ways you can use AI on your day-to-day. You can create your agents, you can create GPTs, and autonomous AI maybe not as much. It's not like, you just can't create something right away. That it's very specifically used for certain things. So just kind of wanted to put it out there so you have the terminology and what it really means. In terms of, I'm sure you heard of hallucinations. I'm sure you heard of biases in the data, etc. I wanted to kind of address and say that technology companies are responding to this. They are responding to it with latest technology tools, technology methods. One is called RAG and the other is called Raptor. I just wanted to talk about these two because initially, when ChatGPT first came out or the LLMs first came out, the transformers were closed. So the data was fed, the data was as of a certain day. And if it could be old, sometimes, whatever. So it's only going and looking at this box of data, and then it's able to do what it does and spit out. It's not the case anymore. So it does that. but it also goes out to the internet. It does a full wide search of the similar thing that you're asking across the internet. It cross-checks its response to what's out in the internet and able to respond with most accurate. And it comes back with sources in terms of, you'd say it compared against a white paper that Nursem released, 2 years ago. It pulled some information out of that. It'll say white paper, research paper, blah, blah, published by Nursem. And you're able to actually cross-check that. Now, what is that doing? It actually reduces hallucinations drastically. And you can actually check. Is this true? Right there with the click of a button. You can go look at the sources and check it yourself. So this is how the tech companies are responding to the fear, so that people are not afraid of data and biases and incorrect data, and they're able to cross-check against what's available, not just in the transformer, but also against what's on the internet, right? So because nobody's really doubting what's on the internet, people seem to take that quite okay. So they also came up with a new reasoning and optimization algorithm that integrates logical reasoning into the decision-making process. So this is where the decision-making of the AI has improved drastically. It is also similar to what I said with the RAG, where the bias and the thinking is more visible and transparent to the system, to the end user. Of course, I'm sure you've heard of XAI, explainable AI, which works with transparency of how the algorithm works through deep learning. So as I said, what XAI is really focused on is, as you go through these algorithms, it's spitting out data. Many people are doubting, how is this coming up with this? Is this true? Like, does this have a bias? Think about a situation. This is now in real time, right? This you can actually see it. As it goes through the neural network and the deep learning algorithm, it goes through layer by layer by layer. Imagine you're able to see transparently its thinking process, how it's thinking. I'm seeing this, hence I think this is, this is the case. So what that is called transparency, in how it takes you through the deep learning neural network. So you're able to see it now. You can actually see it in a lot of the medical diagnosis tools, for example, which AI has become a very powerful tool. It's doing very good diagnosis, even better than humans and more accurate, they say. But but medical diagnosis is a critical component. You can't go wrong. So people want to know if it's really right? This is where explainable AI is starting to get implemented, because it's able to tell you how it's coming up with the diagnosis. So that is, and that pretty much the different tools of XAI can be adopted in multiple places. So this is becoming more and more prevalent because the market is demanding, so that's another thing that I wanted to kind of bring up. So explainable AI, is again, like I kind of put, it's become a response to wanting to improve fairness and transparency. It also comes it is actually complemented by reinforcement learning. So what they're doing, what is reinforcement learning is basically, it's like giving a kid a chocolate, right? If a kid is behaving properly, you give the kid a chocolate and then they want to do it more and more. It's positive reinforcement. So they kind of taught the machine an iterative approach that allows, in some way, by rewarding it with desirable actions and penalizing it with undesirable actions. They embed this as a part of the algorithm, and that leads to continuous improvement as it learns the algorithm, because the algorithm is getting trained. It's training itself like a human brain. So it's kind of, we have built reinforcement learning, are building, and the reinforcement learning algorithms are getting more and more prevalent as well, which reduces, again, biases and improves fairness. So I wanted to talk a little more about multimodal, because we are all moving more and more towards multimodal. Everything is not just text into responded by text anymore. It's text into video, text into audio. So the various applications is, the various components of multimodal is, of course, the data and how it's stored, the models, of course, in terms of how it understands, and the actual application. So Google has come up with every big company has multimodal applications already built and working. I think I kind of shuffled the slides. I think this is the agentive AI slide. I think I shuffled it around. How it's used, it can be used as a personalized assistant, like I said before, in intelligent automation. We don't have to go through it again. So I talked a little bit here on GPT-based language models. I'm sure we talked a little bit on GPTs before and what they can really do. So I kind of gave some examples here. We don't have to go through it because we've kind of given through it. Similarly, autonomous AI, how it's being used. It's used in self-driving cars. It's used in robotic process, fraud detection, predictive maintenance. So a little bit more on reinforcement learning. It's for you to take away on how this really works. I don't necessarily have to go through it. And on XAI, I just thought, given that it's part of a women's justice presentation, I thought you would all want to know that these are the benefits and techniques and that technology is working with to improve biases, etc. I wanted to kind of bring this up. So we have given, I'm sure all of you heard, like Nursem, you mentioned ethics around fairness in data, etc. So we technologists are now starting to work with to reduce the biases, what we call synthetic data. So instead of taking a real data that's available out in the market, they're starting to build and test models where they're creating data themselves that is comprehensive. Say, for example, we are trying to analyze, what you need to do in a self-driving car, right? This is a good example. Actually, somebody asked me in a panel or in a talk, a woman asked me about autonomous cars. She said, if you're driving in a car, a self-driving car, and you're sitting at the back with a child, seated, and the car is in a place where it has to crash into something. It can happen, right? There's a cyclist, something can happen, and there's somebody crossing on the street, right? On that spur of a second, it needs to make a decision if it has to divert the car in order to protect the pedestrian crossing the car, or it has to do something else in order to protect the passenger in the car seat. How would you make that decision? How will a self-driving car make that decision? My response to it is, it can. It actually can. And the reason it can is because this has been given. The model is going through, again, like millions of terabytes of driving tests where it has absorbed all this information. They test this for all these things. They give it this information where it can crash. There's a woman sitting, there's a stroller going across. All of this, it has gone through it. Based on all that it has gone through, it is going to be able to go back into this data, pull out and realize that if I go crash into this woman who's crossing the road, she's surely going to die. But if I turn the car this way and crash myself into the wall, there's better chances of the woman in the car seat surviving because of a seatbelt or whatever. But if it's a direct collision, that person is 100% going to die. This intelligence is actually in the autonomous car. And this data is real, and it is fed to the computer, to the machine as it's making these decisions. So the reason I'm kind of coming back to synthetic media is synthetic data is when the model is being trained nowadays to avoid biases, because real data sets are, for example, having there's a gender bias issue because there's lack of data out there that from women, which is creating the digital gender divide to be amplified because of AI. that can be avoided because synthetic data is something you're creating. You're making sure you're creating data that represent women and men equally. You can creating data that represents certain races equally, and you're training the model based on this synthetic data, and then you scale it to real situations. So this is big in terms of how, again, technology is trying to work towards avoiding. Now, it's not 100% there. They're starting to work with smaller data sets, but it's in the way. It's in the way. Again, like, it is the photo, the creation of the responses of AI to image creation and all of this based on real life is becoming more and more real. And I just kind of wanted to show you some images that we did. I kind of put this slide out there for you to see the number of tools, AI tools that are available within these realms of writing, chatbots, productivity, design, video, marketing. For example, by the way, Khan Academy, Nursem, I don't think you'll approve of this, but Khan Academy came up with a whole automated teaching for kids, and it's actually in a beta testing version. You can tutor yourself using these videos, AI videos that are being released. And I actually saw the video. It's quite interesting. So if anybody wants to kind of take a look at this slide and open these, they're literally like websites, open them and start playing with them. I'd really encourage that you do that. The only thing I'll say, when you're using any public domain tools, do not put your credit card information, your passport information, your personal pictures information into it. Just work with generic information and just play with it. You'll understand. Coming back to, I kind of wanted to kind of play and see, I saw that when you asked a bot, like, who does what job, occupational roles in the eye of AI, a woman, it came up with all these things. A man, it said carpenter, blacksmith, plumber, dentist, mechanic, a woman, librarian, biologist, veterinarian. So this definitely but the thing is, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Either. You cannot really say there's something wrong with it. It's able to go back, look at all the data that it's fed, and it's responding. Now, if you start using synthetic data and you start completely creating a million women engineers, as a part of the synthetic data, that's what it's going to respond to. That's what it's going to say. So that's really, but we are still in the process of cleaning this data is not going to be that simple. So I think enough of my talk. I'm sure all of you are bored. But I'd like to, if you don't mind, take a few minutes to actually run a few tools in front. I would like for you to see how simple they are to use. And you'll see that this beautiful PowerPoint presentation that I created took me 2 minutes. Of course, I modified it quite a bit, but the basic outline of it came to me in literally a few minutes. And I'd like to kind of show you how easy it is to do it. And so let me do this. I'll just stop sharing for a second and close this. Okay, now I'll share it again. You there? Okay, let me share the screen again. Okay, can you see this tool?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a tool that actually creates PowerPoints, right? I opened it. I have an account, so I opened it. So I'll just create a new one for you right here. So it says create from one line prompt in a few seconds, right? Just in one line. So you continue. I'll do a PowerPoint presentation on KADEM as an organization. What do you think? Okay. Okay. KADEM. Adaptation. Then it's a non-for-profit, right?
Yes, it's an NGO, Women and Democracy Association.
Okay. I just did eight slides, for example. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think I have to.
Is there content already in the slides or?
Yeah, it'll give us, it'll give the content. It's AI images, medium, advanced mode. I think I'm saying that. I think this is okay, continue. Okay, right? So I'm just gonna pick a lighter background, right? You can pick different backgrounds. I'll pick a lighter background. Professional looking, generate.
Okay, I think.
Okay.
Okay. It.
So
Yeah.
it just takes information that's available that it sees, outside, and it's able to pull through. The important thing is the tool, the way it works, right? So you see the power, the speed. Of course, you can do many things, but the way I work with it is I can download it.
Actually, I already learned, I guess,
Yeah.
Suma, what you were like explaining to us, because this is not giving what KADEM is doing, because I think it couldn't find what KADEM is, because KADEM is the initials of Turkish. And
Uh-huh.
maybe in English there is nothing, and in translation it is not, let's say, overlapping, and
Yeah.
it is summarizing what an NGO
It's doing.
mission. Yes,
Yes.
I mean, this is good to know that how it is biased or how it is limited in terms of
The
let's say,
information it gets. Yeah.
yes, I mean,
Yes.
at least it is not nothing giving a special on KADEM because of this language and different barriers.
Yes.
I could understand that how it is working actually now.
That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Okay.
So, but you get the power of something like this.
Yeah.
So it's like if you go back, for example, let's do something more like new from, say, create new. I could do one more if you want. Something that's just centered that it'll understand more, a presentation on G20, W20, and its programs. You want to try that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. just this time. I'm just doing something very simple. You can also enter like a Word document, like a list of things to do, and it'll pull up stuff. Yeah, but now you know, like you can play with it. You can play with it, and for some things you can do it, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have more to just show or say to us?
Yeah, I wanted to show you one more. If I have time, otherwise I'll stop it.
No, no. Okay. I mean, if you want to do it, I think we are already having like 42 minutes or something like that. If I am just making it correctly.
Okay, let me just do one thing. I'll just do a couple of prompts, like I think that'll be useful. If you think it's useful, otherwise we can stop it. Like I'm okay with anything. Share. Okay. Share. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of show you, like this is just ChatGPT. I'll do something how it helps me with spreadsheets. I just downloaded, for example, upload from my computer, a spreadsheet for public data. I just a public data, and then I ask it to analyze. That's all. That's all I'm going to ask it to do for now.
And this data is coming a kind of reliable source, then you are putting it there, or
Yeah,
am I
yeah.
right?
It's a reliable. It's a public data, right? That I downloaded on ExxonMobil.
Mhm.
Something data.
Okay, and then it is analyzing or making the main base
Yes, yes,
statement about
yes,
the data. Okay.
yes. So basically, it also creates charts for you, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It can do so basically you can pull up charts, you can do anything, right? And the GPTs I was talking about, if you just go to explore GPTs here, right here, it's so accessible. You could do many things here. You could do you can use Canva, you could use so many things that you can actually use day to day for
Okay.
to just improve efficiency for yourself.
And these applications are in the slides that you are already giving, I guess, to us. Am I
Uh,
right? Some of
So
them.
Chat GPT is Chat GPT. It's simple,
Yeah.
you just have to get into it. It's open source. You can do it. I can give you the list of tools if you want to use for
Yeah.
PowerPoints. Like I'm happy to share it with you and you can share it with your audience. That's totally fine. The list of tools that I put on the PowerPoint has quite a few of these already built in there. So you can just go and start playing with it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Suma. If it is the end, I am just having so many information now, and I am just challenging myself as a professor that how I can deal with this whole applications with my students. Actually, maybe I can go and play with them, but am I okay with the students that going and playing with them? I am not sure. But before these questions, I will come to the questions of the audience. Actually, we have a lot of questions here about your presentation. Let's begin with the deep learning discussion in the beginning of the presentation. That there is a question: what is the difference between deep learning and machine learning?
Mhm.
And the three questions are together. Maybe I can give all of them if it is okay for you.
Yeah.
And what predictions can we make about how AI technologies will develop in the future? This is much a general question. And in which sectors have artificial intelligence and deep learning led to what kind of changes? do you think? This is the first, yeah.
The machine learning is actually interpreting, with the machine interpreting patterns in data. It's that simple. That's machine learning. It's able to look at the data, it's looking at the patterns, and it's able to logically reason itself and come up with answers. That's machine learning. Deep learning is a part of machine learning that uses neural networks to take it 10 levels deeper in how it interprets that data. So
Okay.
the conversation we had around what neural networks are, how the data, it perceives the data, it goes through those different nodes, and depending on what it's supposed to do, goes through those various options. If yes, this way, if no, this way, if not this way. It transmits the information node over node, layer over layer. That's why it's called deep learning, because it's layers and layers and layers of neurons that get fired based on the input they receive. And finally, there's an output layer. There's an input layer. There are many, many layers of many, many nodes. Depending on the yes, no, maybe on every situation, a different node gets activated, and based on the activation, there's a different output that gets generated, that gets transmitted to the next node based on the logic that it has interpreted, and it goes that way. So that's deep learning. So deep learning is a part of, in a way, machine learning.
Okay.
Yeah. So it interprets this data, then the machine learning part kind of looks at everything, the embeddings, like I explained how the data is stored, and comes up with the output. So that's the difference between deep learning and machine learning. The other question you asked was the innovations in different areas of where artificial intelligence is going. Artificial intelligence is going in 2 or 3 significant directions. I think we are at a point where we have cracked all the major, biggest challenges that we tried to crack in terms of what I explained, the multimodal interpretation of data. So now we are able to take videos or audios or text simultaneously and feed it. Now think about a processor, the speed that a computer needs to process all this data. So the bottleneck now is that, right? So now all the innovation is around what they call token size. Token size, think about token as a word. The number of, in the context window, what you call a context window, how much data can it take? How much can it read? And how much can it output? We've already cracked the issue around technically how it can do it. It can do it parallelly, but the computer processors are not able to handle it. So now instead of CPUs, we're going to GPUs, where we work with graphical processing units that used to, remember, like video is processed through GPUs. So, and high amounts of data being crunched in parallel. So that is requiring the concept of quantum physics. They're starting to work with the concepts of quantum physics and working with chips on how they process data, on how quantum particles behave in physics, and that is called quantum computing. So it is going in that direction, and it's not somewhere else. It's happening now. Quantum computing is happening now. If you know NVIDIA, it's one of the largest producers of GPUs, and its stock has gone like straight up, because all the LLMs, everything they need, and their data centers to be able to accommodate and crunch these large amounts of data is actually starting to create other issues around generation of heat and climate and need for energy consumption. So yeah, so it's going in that direction. It's also going towards artificial general intelligence. What does that mean? It's not just doing one task. It's like sitting, like we have a lot of intelligence. I see somebody walk, I'm able to say hi to them as I'm talking to you. There's a lot of like my human brain is general intelligence, right? So it's going in that direction. We are now, the machine is able to go in the realm of AGI, and it's a big the breakthrough was multimodal. The multimodal, when it was cracked, suddenly is able to receive all this and respond.
And I think it is also including, is it also including the how to teach AI? to intelligently think about in the new innovations. I think there is a discussion about it, that how we can teach AI to be less sexist or less ideological, etc. I will come to this, but is it also a new kind of future of AI, or is it not in this?
Absolutely, AI can be anything you want it to be, right? It's gonna, it's good. So if you start working with algorithms like reinforcement learning, for example, or start
Huh?
using more synthetic data, and how you work with how it starts to learn, it's going to continuously question also, like it's going to question and take this into consideration as it's learning. But you know, the question is, they're smarter than the reason, the speed at which they can process data is a lot more than human beings. And hence the whole concern, and the speed at which they're learning is also that fast. So yeah, where it can go really has no limits.
Yes. Okay, we have
Yeah.
more questions, and
Yes,
especially
yes.
I will ask about the woman. Like, of course, this is also related with woman and AI discussion. Uh, there is a thank for excellent speech, and this is the question: are you able to share most useful and successful AI-based woman startup and innovation across the globe? Maybe if you know, you can just share with us after, or you can share now as well. These are like woman-based, AI-based woman startups, or innovative kind of new technologies they are asking.
So is the question, are there any AI based or women driven AI initiatives, or is it based on uh,
I think,
AI tools that are working towards women's rights? Like,
okay, the question is showing that it can be both, but I think it is mostly talking about the woman-based startups, that women are creating certain AI applications or technologies, is also the thing that I got the question.
okay.
And yeah,
So some of the leaders in AI are women, actually. The CTO of OpenAI, Mira, she is a woman. She's a woman. There's a woman that works with actually biases, who's one of the on the forefront of research of Stanford University. Timnit Gebru is her name, and she's actually She's fighting to fight biases.
yeah.
That's been her sole goal in terms of race and gender biases. She left Google because of the forefront of AGI, and she was afraid that they were not being transparent in years ago. And she left them in a lawsuit, actually. And she started her own non-for-profit research organization that's completely focused on artificial intelligence and wanting to kill and address, not kill, address biases. And she's pulling a lot to the forefront on issues, gender issues and race issues
Okay.
in technology per se. So I think these two are the two women I think are on the forefront, but I have to say there are less than 18% women in AI at the moment.
Yeah.
Less than 18% of the workforce is AI. I don't know of any enterprises that have been started by a woman technologists yet that have really risen to that yet.
Okay, there's a question also about, again, being a woman and using it. How I can, there's a question by the participant, how I can use and contribute to make AI more equal for men and women as a female technology user. This is the question. How we can make it less sexist or gender biased. This is the question.
I say it depends on the technology you're using, so, and how you're using it, right? So if you're using AI to like improve your work life in terms of, improving your spreadsheets, how you analyze your spreadsheets, or how you create automation around your PowerPoints, like, or writing, for example, I say continuous improvement around what you give in terms of the prompt information, it becomes an important thing. And also that all the tools are not necessarily biased. So it's also important to kind of understand that, like, they're gonna dig at data, public domain data, and come back with information. So look at what you see, verify against general statistics. And if you feel like there's bias, then I would say bring it up to the forefront of the organization. Like talk to I picked up the phone and I would call the management and say, I see clear issues, like, you know, what's happening type of stuff. But given more and more of Raptor and RAG type of technologies that are going into the tools, this should become less and less.
Okay, I think you already answered one of the questions, because this was the question that can we say that AI is responding without prejudices, or it is unbiased. You are also saying, and actually I am also saying, that it cannot be completely unbiased.
Yeah.
But is there any kind of point in the future, can be any point in the future, that it is working unbiased? I have an answer, but I want to also have your answer. Unbiased, or less prejudiced, or without prejudice?
My take on it is it's not possible because artificial intelligence is being created by human beings. You know, the algorithms are written by human beings. The data is being gathered by human beings. This is a human-led innovation, and humans are biased. We have biases. We work with judgments all over. So the best way to get through the biases is to have more, if you're talking about gender bias, to have more women in the workforce of AI, more women who are training these algorithms, more women who are thinking about women as they gather the data. Like the COVID-19 was a good example. COVID was a good example where the uniforms of nurses were mostly, ended up being tailor-made to men, supposedly, because that's just, they didn't even consider a woman when most women are healthcare workers are women. But most of the distribution of the garments ended up with male sizes.
Yeah.
This is saying, where is that coming from? It's a man's response to a situation. And if a woman maybe was in that shoes, she would have responded differently as a man from an executive
Yeah.
decision standpoint. So that is the only way you can think for a woman, or for any, to reduce any bias depending on race or culture or anything, to be in that shoe, because this is being created by us.
Okay. And another question about the autonomous cars. If there are two options in front of you, yani in the autonomous cars, I think case, one is male and one is female, and a path must be chosen. How does artificial intelligence make the ethical decision? Okay, I want to ask this because, like, when we are saying that this is gender bias because of the patriarchal or certain ideological
Mhm.
database, is there any kind of, let's say, point that the autonomous cars are choosing, like, kind of things, or how it can be responded?
I would not think so, because autonomous car, the data is being, well, I'll take that back. Basically, if an autonomous car is being driven and the data is being fed by in San Francisco, that's where they're training it. All the data is San Francisco and New York City or something. They may get a very mixed population of people. But say the car is being trained in India, it's not going to be able to recognize certain other things because you don't see certain other things, that it was never exposed to.
Okay.
So it again depends on the data, but I do believe, like, these certain models, for example, India is building its own autonomous car models, its own building, because it decided that the traffic is so chaotic in India
Yes.
that
Different. Yeah.
that the cars, the models here, they're not sure if it can withstand that kind of madness. So they're in the process of coming up with their own autonomous cars. Why is that? It's not that the technology is any different. It's because what the roads and the landscape and everything that they're trained on has to kind of work within that situation. So it depends again on how comprehensive the data sets are. It's not that in this situation like this, there's no necessarily a bias on women versus men. It could be because of how it's been trained. They do try to take a very comprehensive data set because they want to sell these cars across the globe. But who knows? Maybe if it's somewhere running in Ethiopia and you take it there, it may not recognize something. We
Yes.
don't know. We don't
Thank you
know.
very much, because it is also related with my question about the contextual embeddedness discussion. Because what you are saying from this is coming to me as culture sensitive or context sensitive
Yes.
kind of issues, and
Yes.
we know that still AI is limited to do this, but with so many information or some training systems in AI, it can be possible as far as I got from you. I mean,
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. And it's evolving.
Okay, and this is about the language as well, I guess, because in
Yes.
Turkey, for example, we had also another panel with KADEM that there's a new, let's say, project on language modeling in Turkish, because like so many things are can be having, let's say, very important technologies, but it is not working in Turkey, as you said in the beginning,
Right.
in because of the
Right.
language, and I think it can be, let's say, trained in this way, and this is a good,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I got my answer about the contextual discussion then. uh,
Wonderful.
and then also the questions I have here is much more related, and it can be the last two questions, I guess. uh, is there any priority in AI to bring the knowledge? For example, we also did some kind of, let's say, practices that, for example, is it giving KADEM as an NGO in Turkey or not? Because in Turkey also there are certain ideological things that some NGOs are having different historical background, etc. And it is very interesting that yes, it is showing some part of NGOs, but not the others.
Not Kadam. Yeah, I didn't recognize Kadam. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's it. That, yes, absolutely. So the fact that if you, I would be very curious, like I'm going to try doing that. Go into ChatGPT after this or Anthropic Claude and ask both the LLMs about Kadam and see what they say. Because and I have a feeling Anthropic may have better data because it's based in France. You know, they're training it in France. All the
Yes,
innovation is
I guess
happening
as
in France.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is it possible, like, is it possible for that it would retrieve more information, better information around Kadam? Absolutely. It's actually more possible. Are there organizations driving this governance? There are. There are.
Yeah, I mean, this is also the question we have here, and I have the question. Then AI or the, let's say, governing actors of AI, I would say, having an ideological kind of positioning. This is the question. And because there's also a question, I will not read all of it, but saying that like even certain training models of artificial intelligence are kept secret, and they are done by some technologies, and they are not giving it public, and they are trying to give or fulfill or put some information to the AI, which is prioritizing some groups or etc. I mean, is it true, or I think it is true, but what do you think about this?
It's definitely possible. It's possible, and I think it is because it depends on what you want the AI tool to do. For example, there's a search engine called Hebia, which does analyzes large amounts of data to respond to sentiments in public. And the way they do it is they scrape the social media. Like, for example, in New York, I'm scraping all the social media of all the teenagers of Facebook and Instagram and everything based on what it's able to get, right? It's able to take all the data. It's able to see the mood of the children. Like, for example, most of the mood is around everybody likes bubble tea. I'm just saying, you know, everybody likes bubble tea. There seems to be you know, a whole issue around, I don't know, like I don't want to say any political statement, but you know, like the summer's hot, you know, people want to buy clothes in Zara versus something else. They're able to see all of this based on the images and text. They're able to identify based on that a sentiment and analysis. They're able to understand the trend is more kids are listening to 80s music. Okay, then imagine a situation where that kind of data is able to be gathered. You can potentially identify a potential riot, right? A potential sentiment against a racist group, for example, for public policy sake, for administrators to understand this. You can identify, yeah, anything, you know, based on the majority of the patterns that they're able to see. It's not just the text, they're able to see the images, they're able to see the posts, they're able to see demographics, geography, age groups. They're able to get a lot of this. And sentiment analysis, Hebia, is based on a search analysis tool and to analyze sentiment. And governments are starting to adopt it and respond to it It can create economic breakthroughs in terms of development of marketing material, for example. Everybody wants to buy clothes from Zara. Suddenly, more Zara type, clothes are going to pop up. Government can potentially understand that there is an uproar against a certain government. There's something that could happen.
Yes.
I better be careful. So it can be both good and bad, and actually, yeah, and depending on how it's used.
Okay, then last question. I think you were expecting this question about ethics, because when you just showed the last applications, it's a very important and contributive thing for me as well, because I am not because of fear, but because of my, like kind of approach. I am not touching any application of AI so far. But I can think that I have already this ability to modify it or revise it, etc. But I have so many students who don't have this, or who are not very willing to do this, and not students only, different people, and their understanding of labor and their understanding of intellectualism is different. What do you think about the usage of this AIs? Because I know that so many students or so many people can bring these presentations as it is given by AI, and
Yes.
what kind of world would be then? Or can we have a pre-training or any other, what is it, kind of yeah, perception-based trainings or education beforehand? Because I think to use this application, there has to be a mindset.
Yes.
Yeah, ethical,
So the
because
analogy I'll give for this, Nursem, is I understand the concerns, right? I do.
yeah,
But think about it as a mobile phone with the internet, right? So when the internet came or the mobile phone came, everybody was like, "Oh my God, this is world changing. Like, what are we gonna do? What's gonna happen?" There was a lot of kind of thing. But people have adopted it over time because they've seen the value in it. That's what happened. They've seen the value in it. So I think the innovation is moving so fast, so rapidly, and it's not just the fear, but also the technology companies responding to the fear because they see the value. I do believe that when I was going to Colombia, we were all using AI. I was using AI tools for my presentation. But the thing is, they openly say, indicate if you are. Like, that's what we were told. Write down there if you're using AI tools and how you're using them.
yes,
And
yes,
if and so I would, right? I would. They didn't stop us from using it necessarily, but they were expecting transparency in our delivery of work and how I do my research using AI? No. I used Google, standard research and white papers and so on. But have I used PowerPoint or analyzed my spreadsheets and stuff? I did. So, but I put it out there. I think the future is where the workers and the young kids learn how to use AI in an ethical manner rather than not use it. Because if you don't adopt it, you'll be left behind. That's really where the world is going. Like, because
okay.
it's going to be a cost value for people, and other people are going to get ahead and do better things and use their time and do things sitting on the beach, and the other side you're not able to. So having those guardrails, but I would say do it, but openly.
Okay, I think this is also a reaction or a kind of strategy against the plagiarism discussions as well. Yani,
Yes, yes.
how
So
you
they're
can,
asking to just put it out there instead
yes,
of saying and of
show
course,
how
as you know, there are tools that can detect AI, but a lot of the tools are also making mistakes, and they're penalizing students who have not used AI as
yeah.
using AI, and that's also unfortunate. That's also very
Also a
unfortunate.
problem after the like ChatGPT discussion and also pandemic that we are still having, and even higher council of educations in Turkey cannot decide that how we will grade AI, etc.
Yeah.
I think there are so many different topics just like we left, we can speak about. Thank you very much for this
My
very,
pleasure. I
very
hope that was valuable and happy to take any questions or send any information that you think would be helpful for people. So
okay. Thank you. I mean, I think they will ask about the presentation and about some application, maybe like suggestions, uh,
absolutely,
colleagues, and
absolutely.
then
Yeah.
we will be in contact. Anyway.
Thanks to KADEM for doing this. This is very
Very
important.
much. Yes, I want to also thank to the advocacy and research unit we have, Betül Hoca and Nurbanu. Thank you for, and Ebru. Thank you for everything, and just see you for the like other panel we have.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Suma, thank you very much.